Yeah, I go back to Kim. Many of the time I went back to Kim there, and I always made a habit of going along the shore, going along the strand there, because years and years before that, I had got this message in a bottle from the Guinness Brewery in Newcastle upon Tyne, and all of a sudden, then here I go, I find another bottle with a message. This one is entirely different. When I got home there, opened it up and read the letter there, it was from Boston, Massachusetts. And I said, my God Almighty, if I got a guinea from the place in England, I was sure to get a couple of dollars here. So anyway, they always want the same thing. They all know where you found it, what your name was, what area you come from, what country, and this and that. So anyway, get pen to paper again and wrote there and give them all the information there that I could. It took a long time, maybe a month before I got any correspondence from there. And I was very surprised that there was no dollars in there, but there was a typed letter from this guy. His name was Bernard G. de Blois. He was stationed on the weather skip Escanaba, which was stationed 300 miles off the coast of Boston. So I said, okay, fine. So give him all the information, things like that. And then no dollars. So I says, well, goodbye, that's it. So many years later, when I worked on the Circle Line, at the Statue of Liberty ferries, I had got my license at that time. And in the pilot house then, you were obliged to monitor Channel 13. That is a Coast Guard station. Any vessel coming into the harbour had to check in with the Coast Guard. So this was Fleet Week, which happens every year in May. And all the ships from different parts of the country come in there. So, okay, I'm listening there on the channel, and I hear this captain going, this is the weather ship Escanaba. I was calling the Scanba. The weather ship Escanaba entering the harbour at the Verrazano Bridge. Okay, fine. And then I rang a bell there and I said, hey, Escanaba, yeah. This is the letter that I got from this guy, Bernard G. de Blois.
How long ago was the letter? When did you get it on the beach?
Well, I don't know. It was 17 months at sea. When this guy threw it off the ship there, 300 miles off Boston, it took 17 months before it landed in Keem. So, okay, I figured, okay, that's it. So anyway, I'm working on the Statue of Liberty ferries. And then when the Fleet Week comes in there, I hear this guy, the weather ship Escanaba, entering the harbour. And I talked to this friend of mine, he was a manager there. He was an ex-Navy man. And I told him the story there. And he says, Tom, he says, get in touch with personnel in Washington. Personnel, well, you know, that could trace the name of this person. So I did. And it took me maybe about 1 or 2 months before I finally got any response. And I found out, yes, I had a letter from his wife. He was there, he had died several years before that. He was the man that put that bottle overboard there off 300 miles off the coast of Massachusetts.
How old were you when you found the bottle?
I don't know. I was, I don't know. I was always in Keem there. It was probably maybe in my early teens or my young 20s, maybe 20 years old or whatever it was. So anyway, from then on, that was it. So there was no dollars. I said, okay, well, so what? But then I traced all that man all the way from New York. And this guy that I knew there, he was an ex-Navy man, and he says, Tom, that was decommissioned. The first one, Escanaba 1, was decommissioned. This is the second one. And he told me to get in touch with personnel in Washington, which I did. And they told me, yes, you're correct. This man was on board that ship 300 miles off the coast of Massachusetts. And the last known address, it was in Florida. So I wrote to that address there, and I got a letter back from his wife saying he had passed away several years before that. So that was the end of the story there. From there on, I always walked along the Strand in Keem. Now you go to Mochuk, which is the first place you see in front of you there. And along the cliff on Mochuk there, on the left-hand side there, at one particular time there, we had a sheep there that went down too far, and she fell down onto the rocks. She wasn't in the sea. And okay, now you'd have to have a curragh or a boat or something to get her there. But no, my father and my Uncle John O'Malley, we went back there, and here they go, and they got a rope, and they tied a rope around me and put me over the goddamn cliff.
How old are you there?
Down into the, I don't know when it happened. But anyway, I got down there, and there was a sheep there, so I took the rope off me, tied it around her neck, and I hauled up to them. I couldn't see them, but I knew they were up there. And I called up to them, and I says, okay, haul her up. And I think they did more damage than anything else. I think they probably broke her neck, because a couple of days later she had died anyway. But then they put down the rope back into me again, tied her around my chest here, and shouted up there, and they hauled me up. So that was one thing. You continue on out to Mochuk. There's not much there. There's an area there known as Clochotarav. Clochotarav is supposedly, there was the imprint of a bull's foot there on the rock. Next to that then was the Black Cove. So now you're round the corner there at Mochuk, and you head back into the banks. The banks were not known as the cliffs, they were known as banks, but they were the cliffs. And there was a certain path going through there that the sheep would follow this path. So at one time there, my father was there one time, and we were bringing them over to shear them back here in Duach. And he was following the path there, and two or three of them broke off, and they headed down, and I was underneath them then, and I started to run to get them back into the path again. And my father is shouting, and he said, stop! What the hell? Right before me there, on the edge of the goddamn cliff, was a cove there. Now if I had gone another 10 or 20 feet, it was bingo. I was gone. I didn't realize that the damn cove was there. But anyway, we go from there anyway, and now we go up to the signal house in Mochuk. You can see the signal house from Keem. When you go to Keem, you can see the signal. Everybody climbs up there to the signal house. The signal house at that time was during the Second World War. Ireland was neutral, but they had to keep a Coast Guard watch. So anyway, a lot of people from Duach were employed there. My Uncle Thomas was there. And I remember he had a uniform, it wasn't a British uniform, it was an Irish uniform, the khaki jacket and the pants and things like that. He would go back there too, and he would always stop at my mother's house there and give me his sandwiches for the whole goddamn day. Another one there was my Uncle John O'Malley. Now it was a 24-hour watch, and they were up there, and I don't know how they lived there, but outside the signal house was a tower. It was a metal tower there, and it was a signal house. What do they call it? A signal house. So when the metal tower went up maybe 15, 20 feet, on either side of that there was an arm that you could extend out there and extend on this side. Every one of those meant something. It was a semaphore type. Semaphore, yeah. It was A for apple, B for Bravo, C for Charlie, D for Delta, E for Echo, and you knew that. And each one represented something. So you could signal to any ships in the bay. So anyway, they stood up there one time, and then it was a 24-hour watch. And at one particular time, an inspector, or whoever it was, some army sergeant come up there at one time, and he found them asleep up there. So now they were being court-martialed. So they had to appear in court. It wasn't in Mayo, it was somewhere I think in Tipperary. But my Uncle John O'Malley intervened there and told them they had done a double shift. They had done their 12-hour shift, but their relief did not come, and they had to wait there 24 hours. So he pleaded with the judge and told them this and that. So the case was dismissed. He was known then as Corporal O'Malley. So other than that then, that was it. At one time there was a telephone poles all the way from Dumont back into Keem, to the station house in Keem. The station house in Keem was like the main place where if you saw something up on Watchard, you would call down and they would relay that message into Keele. So anyway, that was a story there about that. But there was a telephone poles going right up there, and there was a phone right up there at the signal house. It was known as a signal house. So other than that, okay.